Hey there, welcome to this episode. We're going to be taking a look at the grid view on the MPC. This is part one of two parts so that the video is not too long. And we're going to start off with a little concept, a little theory, particularly for new users who need to understand the relationship between the MIDI information, the tracks, and the grid view. So let's start with that. You have tracks where you have MIDI information, just like your DAW. One track could be a drum track. You start inputting those notes as you're recording into your sequence, and those MIDI notes have to live somewhere. They live in the grid view where they can be edited. The most important part that I want you to take away from this is that it's independent MIDI information, because I know this is something that trips up new users to the MPC. So currently we have track 1 selected. We select our tracks with the track buttons, and if I go to menu and I move over to grid view, you're going to see the MIDI information for that particular track. If we move back to main and I select track number 2 and do exactly the same thing, we would then be looking at the MIDI information for that particular track. That's how it works. It's separate in MIDI information. The reason I bring this up is because there are two ways, or two popular ways of working on the MPC. One of those would be to build everything inside of a drum track. Some people like to do that. They don't even use any other separate tracks. I personally like independent tracks. So one track will be drums, one will be samples, one will be vocals, whatever it happens to be. Other users like to build everything inside of one drum track, because you can do that. You can access up to 128 sample slots between your pads and your banks. So one of these could be your bass, one could be drums, one could be sample chops. You can build everything in one track. The difference there is that when you go over and you go to your grid view, you would see MIDI information for everything all gathered in one tiny little window. And for me, I find that gets a little bit cluttered. I prefer working on separate tracks. But for those that like to work that way, you're going to see all of your MIDI information just in one little window. I hope that makes sense. Let's go back quickly to end the episode. How do you access the grid view? Well, we've already seen that. I can go to menu on the hardware. I can go up here and I can select my grid view icon. While we're here, we could drag that to the shortcuts menu. So if you wanted to access it from the main page, it could be listed on the left-hand side, but an easier way is to actually just go to arrangement, and you can double tap on this green section and it will open you up in the grid editor. Now, I want to point out again for new users, this is the same menu. It doesn't matter how you get there on the MPC. It is the same grid editing menu, and whatever track is selected, that is the MIDI information you're going to be looking at. I know, again, this is something that new users find very confusing. You found the menu one way, and then all of a sudden you find it another way. It is still the same grid editing menu. Anyway, I'll see you guys in part 2. Take care.